The first time my neighbor called the cops on me, they said I'd been shouting bylaws in a psychotic episode. That was the official report. In reality, it wasn't me, it was my Parrot. And he wasn't having a breakdown. He was quoting the HOA rulebook, word for word. I'm Mark Harrison, a freelance web developer living in a neighborhood called Whispering Pines. The kind of place that looks like it was designed by beige itself. Every house the same shade of regret, every lawn manicured like it was competing for an award no one asked for. The HOA here doesn't just run the place, they own your peace of mind. And at the top of this pastel kingdom sits Brenda Hernandez, President Secretary and self-declared guardian of suburban morality. Clipboard in hand, visor on, eyes everywhere. Life was fine until I brought home Captain, my African gray parrot. I rescued him from a guy obsessed with old action movies, so instead of "Polly want a cracker," Captain said things like, "Get to the chopper," or "Say hello to my little friend." It was funny, at least to me. He was my only company while I worked from home. But to Brenda, Captain was an audio crime scene waiting to happen. The trouble started on a Tuesday morning. I was in the middle of a Zoom meeting with a potential client, big deal, 5-figure contract, when Captain decided to relive Scarface. From the living room came that familiar inhale followed by "Say hello to my little friend." Then rapid-fire pew-pew-pew noises loud enough to make the mic peak. My client froze. Her face said everything. I laughed nervously, muttering something about kids next door, but the moment I glanced out the window, there she was. Brenda, standing on the sidewalk, poodle in tow, glaring at my house like it had personally offended God. She pulled out her clipboard and wrote something down. Slowly. Deliberately. 2 days later, the letter came. It was printed on heavy cream paper with the HOA's embossed logo like a royal decree. It accused me, my bird, of violating Community Decency Standards Article 5, Section 3 for producing obscene and threatening sounds. A first warning, they said. Next time, fines. Third time, legal action. I laughed at first, then I didn't. Because how exactly do you rectify a parrot? I tried everything, covering his cage, giving him almonds when he stayed quiet, pleading like a parent with a rebellious teenager. But Captain's idea of silence was narrating his own darkness. "It's dark in here, Warden." So dark. I started flinching at every sound. The house didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a ticking bomb of noise violations. I couldn't work, couldn't relax, and every time Brenda passed by, clipboard in hand, I felt smaller, powerless. One night, I sat on the couch surrounded by empty coffee mugs and despair, staring at the 8-pound binder of HOA bylaws that came with the house. I'd never opened it before. It was pure bureaucratic misery. Definitions, restrictions, sections, subsections. I was reading it out loud just to vent when Captain tilted his head and repeated softly, "Post-holiday." I froze. He'd mimicked the line perfectly. And that's when it hit me. If Brenda wanted compliance, if she wanted rules and order, then I'd give her exactly that. Down to the letter. I spent the next week training Captain like a feathery little lawyer. Article 5, I'd say. Article 5, he'd reply. Section 4, persistent nuisance. He'd repeat it in the driest, most robotic tone you've ever heard. Day after day, we went through the entire HOA binder. He stopped sounding like a movie villain and started sounding like an emotionless bureaucrat. I called it Operation Bylaw. The first performance happened on a sunny Saturday. Brenda was in her yard trimming her flowers like she was defusing a bomb. My living room window was open. Captain perched by it and said in perfect monotone, Article 9, Section 2, "Trash receptacles shall not be visible from the street-facing view." Brenda froze mid-trowel, looked up. Then came the next one. Section 2B. Receptacles must be earth-tone beige, taupe, or gray. I swear I saw her eye twitch. She knew. She knew. I was mocking her, but she couldn't prove it. What was she going to do? Report me for quoting her own rules. For 2 weeks, peace reigned. Brenda avoided my sidewalk, but I could feel her seething from across the street. Then, one morning, a sharp knock rattled my door. not her usual angry rhythm. This one was official. I looked through the peephole. 2 cops. "Sir, one of them said we got a wellness check request. Neighbor claims you've been shouting bylaws at all hours, possibly having a breakdown." I nearly laughed. "Officers, it's not me. It's my parrot." Their expressions didn't change, so I waved them inside. "Captain," I said, "say hi to the officers." Captain puffed up and declared Article 2, Section 4. Solicitation is not permitted. One of the cops blinked. "Is that real?" "Oh, absolutely," I said. "It's HOA law. He's just being compliant." The older cop sighed, the kind of sigh that only comes from 30 years of nonsense. "All right," he said. "Code compliant. Have a nice day." They left shaking with laughter. I stood in the doorway, adrenaline buzzing through my veins. Round 2 won. But Brenda wasn't finished. A week later, another letter arrived. This one claimed that my bird's cage, the literal structure, was unapproved architectural modification. She was trying to fine me under Article 7. That's when I realized she wasn't just enforcing the rules. She was using them as a weapon. So I decided to do the same. I called a contractor named S. He was a big guy, all beard and sarcasm. "You want me to build a what for a bird?" he asked. "An alcove," I said. "Permanent. Built into the wall. Fully permitted. HOA color palette. Whispering Pines Gray." He read the letter Brenda sent me, and then he laughed so hard he had to put down his coffee. "Kid, you're insane. I like it." 2 days later, my living room was a construction zone. Brenda watched from her window the whole time, probably thinking I was demolishing the cage in surrender. When it was done, Captain had a new home, a recessed, glass-fronted, city-approved avian alcove. It even had recessed lighting. We submitted the paperwork straight to Brenda's doorstep. A week later, she sent out an email to every homeowner in the neighborhood. Emergency HOA meeting. Harassment by resident 14B. Her subject line alone dripped with rage. She was going to make an example of me. That night, the clubhouse was packed. I'd never seen so many neighbors in one place, maybe because most of them were terrified of her. Brenda stood behind the podium, her visor gleaming under fluorescent lights. "Residents," she began, "this is a sad day. One of our own has decided to mock the very fabric of our community. Mr. Harrison has trained his animal to weaponize our bylaws against us." She clicked her projector. Up came a photo of Captain sitting proudly in his new alcove. Gasps, murmurs. Brenda pressed on her voice, shaking with righteous fury. "This is harassment. This is psychological warfare. The board proposes a $1,000 fine and removal of the animal." The room went silent. Every eye turned to me. I stood up carrying a small covered carrier and walked slowly to the front. "Brenda," I said, calm as I could, "I'm not here to argue. You're right, we should all respect the rules." Her lips curled. "You think this is a joke, Mr. Harrison?" "Not at all." I uncovered the carrier. "Captain, say hello." He tilted his head, scanned the crowd, then spoke. Article 6, Section 1. Grass shall not exceed a height of 4 inches. You could have heard a pin drop. I looked at the board. "I've done exactly what you asked. You said he was obscene. I made him decent. You said he was disruptive. I made him educational. He now speaks only the language of the HOA. Someone in the back snorted, then a chuckle. Then the room started laughing. Brenda's face flushed crimson. "This is a conduct unbecoming. Is it?" I asked. "Or is it conduct too compliant for you to handle?" I turned to Captain. "What's the rule on arbitrary fines?" Without missing a beat, he said, "Section 12A. All fines must not be arbitrary or capricious." The laughter broke like a wave. Even the board members couldn't hide their smiles. Brenda pounded her gavel, sputtering about order, about community values, about dignity. But it was over. Someone yelled, "Let's vote." 4 hands went up to dismiss the complaint. Only one, hers, stayed in the air, shaking with fury. She slammed her clipboard on the table, muttered something about lawlessness, and stormed out the side door. The sound of it slamming echoed like a victory bell. I walked out of that clubhouse into the cool night air, heart-pounding, hands still trembling. My contractor friend was waiting by his truck smoking a cigar. That he said grinning was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Arbitrary or capricious, I'm getting that tattooed. I laughed for the first time in weeks. Thanks for the alcove, man. Hey, he said, clapping my shoulder. Fully permitted. She can't touch you. From that night on, everything changed. Brenda still held her title, but her power was gone. People weren't scared anymore. Neighbors actually started talking to each other. Captain became a local legend. The bylaw bird. Folks would stop by on their walks and call out through my window, "Hey, Captain, what's the rule on fences?" And in that same deadpan tone he'd answer Article 6, Section 8. No fence shall exceed 6 feet in height. Everyone laughed. Even the mailman stopped flinching. Sometimes when I think about it, it still amazes me. I didn't beat Brenda with violence or shouting or anger. I beat her with her own weapon paperwork logic and a talking bird. And if there's one thing I learned from the whole ordeal, it's this. When bullies hide behind rules, the smartest revenge is knowing those rules better than they do.